House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 2, is called Rhaenyra the Cruel. It's about the aftermath of the murder of Prince Jaehaerys. There are explosive emotional outbursts and a tragic fight to the death. So what happens and what does it mean? This video has no spoilers for future episodes. We saw last episode how Aegon loved his son Jaehaerys, so in his fury and grief, Aegon smashes the model city that his father Viserys made. Viserys loved this model. It's a symbol of the history of their dynasty, so for Aegon to smash it, it's like he's destroying his own realm. Maybe Aegon is jealous that Viserys spent so much time with this model, but didn't spend much time with him, his son. Aegon shouts, "I am the king." In Game of Thrones, Tywin says that any man who must say, "I am the king," is no true king. King Aegon is powerless to protect his own son. In Game of Thrones, Brienne says that nothing's more hateful than failing to protect the one you love. And Jaehaerys was probably the only person who Aegon really loved. Now, Aegon only has rage. Aegon lashes out, blaming his own allies, like how Aegon's uncle Daemon lashed out at his allies last episode. Aegon asks Criston, the Kingsguard commander, why he failed to protect Jaehaerys. Criston says he was in bed, but he doesn't mention that he was in Queen Alicent's bed. If Criston wasn't having forbidden sex that night, maybe he would have saved the prince. It's like in last season, when Criston had the watch on the night Aemon's eye was cut out. Maybe he was having sex with Alicent then, too. This is the second time that royal blood has been spilled on Criston's watch. Aegon assumes that Rhaenyra ordered the murder, which she didn't, Daemon did. But Jasper, the Master of Laws, says some other traitor may be responsible. And it's true that Mysaria helped Daemon arrange the murder. We might also speculate that Larys was involved. Larys replaced the castle staff with his own people. One of the maids saw blood before the murder and did nothing. Did Larys allow this murder to happen? Otto never lets a crisis go to waste. He wants to use this dead child for political advantage. Otto doesn't actually believe that Rhaenyra is the killer, but he wants to publicly blame Rhaenyra anyway, and to parade Jaehaerys' corpse through the city to make Rhaenyra look bad, so that people will support Aegon instead of her. Aegon says that's wrong and gross, and it's funny that Aegon, who is a terrible person, is the only one here who speaks up for decency. In some ways, Aegon is the most honest of the Greens. But Otto and Alicent convince him, so Aegon's loss is cynically exploited for politics. Aegon's brother Aemond sees that the murderers, Blood and Cheese, escaped through a secret passage, and this is in the same room where Aemond and Criston were drinking that night. But Aemond left to go to a brothel. If Aemond had stayed, maybe he would have caught the murderers. Blood and Cheese only killed Jaehaerys because they couldn't find Aemond. He was their target, so he feels guilt for the death of his nephew. Though Jaehaerys' death does make Aemond the heir to the throne, and he has always thought himself more worthy of the crown than Aegon. Alicent cries for Jaehaerys, and her father Otto tries to hold her, but she moves away, just like we've seen Helaena move away from Alicent's touch. Later, when Aegon cries, Alicent doesn't hold or comfort him, and Aegon doesn't comfort Helaena. This family sucks at showing love for each other. They never learned how to love from cold, calculating Otto, and they're all resentful and disgusted by each other's evil acts. The distant, cold Greens contrast with how Rhaenyra and Jace grieved together last episode. Helaena doesn't want to be paraded through town. She doesn't want her grief to be a political performance. But Alicent insists that she must do her duty and pretend, like how Otto pushed Alicent into politics. Helena doesn't call Jaehaerys, she just calls him my boy. Because Jaehaerys is a political name. It's the name of the old king, Jaehaerys. And Helena doesn't want to play politics. She just wants her son, her boy, who was taken from her. Helena gives a funeral shroud for Jaehaerys that she had started making before Jaehaerys' death, as though on some subconscious level she knew Jaehaerys was going to die, because Helena has dreams of the future. Larys captures Blood, one of the men who killed Jaehaerys. Blood was trying to leave King's Landing with Jaehaerys' head, so he could get paid by Daemon, which is more evidence that Daemon must have told Blood to kill Jaehaerys, or else Blood wouldn't try to bring Daemon Jaehaerys' head. Last episode, Blood acted tough and brave, but when he sees Larys's torture tools, he confesses right away. Blood doesn't know the name of the other murderer, the ratcatcher Cheese, so Aegon just kills Blood and then hangs every ratcatcher. So he kills the guilty ratcatcher Cheese, but he also kills 99 innocent men. Couldn't he have just gotten Blood or gotten Helena to identify Cheese and then only killed him? But Aegon is happy to murder innocent people, to express his grief and to feel strong. In the book, Blood is tortured for 13 days before he is allowed to die. Alicent apparently wanted to bathe in the blood of Blood's wife and children. Alicent and Rhaenyra are both more brutal and violent in the book, though some of these stories are exaggerated rumors, so the book is ambiguous. Also, in the book, after Aegon kills the ratcatchers, Otto buys 100 cats to catch the rats instead. These cats are probably the ancestors of the cats that Arya chases in Game of Thrones. And these rat catchers were originally hired by King Jaehaerys because there was a plague that was spread by rats. So even the rats and the cats in this story have a detailed history and lore. So the Greens parade Alicent, Helena, and her dead child through the city, and it sucks. Helena is stressed and panicked. She tends to get overwhelmed by crowds and noise, so this is another nightmare that her mother has forced her into. In the crowd, you can see Kat, the wife of Hugh, and this herald is played by artist and podcaster Scroobius Pip. The Greens proclaim that Rhaenyra murdered Jaehaerys. They call her a kinslayer, because Jaehaerys was Rhaenyra's nephew, her family, and in this world, killing family is one of the worst possible crimes. They call Rhaenyra the Cruel, which continues the epithets idea from last episode. Like, Aegon I was the Conqueror, Jaehaerys was the Conciliator, Aegon II is the Dragoncock, and the Cruel is the epithet used for King Maegor, who was the worst king ever at this time. So the Greens are using propaganda, framing Rhaenyra as a monster who should not have the throne. They send letters all over the realm spreading this false accusation. So on Dragonstone, Rhaenyra's counselors are worried. They need allies, and fewer people will support Rhaenyra if they think that she murdered her little nephew. Some of Rhaenyra's own counselors seem to believe that she did it, including this guy Sir Alfred Broome. In the book, 100 years ago, Alfred's family's castle was burned by King Maegor the Cruel, and now Alfred thinks that Rhaenyra the Cruel might really have killed Jaehaerys. Much of the realm is biased against Rhaenyra because she's a woman. There's never been a female ruler of Westeros before. Alfred suggests that as a mother, Rhaenyra's grief led her to impulsively kill Jaehaerys, as though her womanly, wandering uterus made her murder a child. The men are quick to doubt Rhaenyra, but Rhaenyra is not the impulsive murderer here. Daemon is. Rhaenyra realizes that he caused this mess. Daemon says that he only ordered for Aemond to be killed. He says that he didn't order Jaehaerys' death. And that might be technically true. He might not have said Jaehaerys' name. But we know that Daemon told Blood and Cheese a son for a son. which implies that if you can't kill Aemond, kill Aegon's son Jaehaerys instead. Certainly Blood thought Daemon wanted Jaehaerys dead, or else Blood wouldn't have taken Jaehaerys' head to get payment. But Daemon refuses to take any responsibility for the dead child. He doesn't acknowledge the political harm that this has done to Rhaenyra, and he doesn't acknowledge Rhaenyra's authority as his queen. This murder was never about helping Rhaenyra or avenging Luke. It was always about Daemon wanting war in defiance of Rhaenyra's wishes. So Rhaenyra finally says that she can't trust Daemon, that Daemon only really follows his selfish desires. Rhaenyra and Daemon first hooked up when she was a teenager and Uncle Daemon was pushing 40. Daemon does love Rhaenyra in some twisted way, but he also uses her as a tool to get political power. He wants to make the Targaryens great again with fire and blood, and he can only do that through Queen Rhaenyra, because King Viserys chose Rhaenyra as heir instead of him. This is Daemon's deepest wound. He feels rejected and unloved by his brother. So now Daemon gets so angry that he almost chokes Rhaenyra, like he choked her in Season 1. Rhaenyra says the reason why Viserys rejected Daemon was because of Daemon's bad behavior, his treason and his murders. But Daemon doesn't face his flaws. He says Viserys was just scared of how cool and great Daemon is. He says Viserys and Rhaenyra are just weak. Daemon refuses to admit to his failures and insecurities, so Rhaenyra calls him pathetic and he leaves. Daemon is dangerous, and Rhaenyra may be safer without him, but Daemon's also a powerful symbol of Targaryen legitimacy. He's the brother of King Viserys, a renowned warrior, a prince with a dragon and a Valyrian sword. If he's not by Rhaenyra's side, she looks weaker in the eyes of the realm. Daemon's daughter Baela tries to talk to Daemon, but he ignores her. We've barely seen them speak since Pentos 6 years ago, and Baela is Daemon's favourite daughter. We've never seen Daemon talk to his other daughter, Rhaena. He seems like a shitty dad. Rhaenyra orders Baela to fly her dragon Moondancer to keep a watch on King's Landing. Earlier, Rhaenyra refused to let Jace watch King's Landing because she didn't want to risk Jace after Luke died, but Rhaenyra does risk Baela. Baela wants to know where Daemon's going, but Rhaenyra doesn't say. Baela is set to be the future Queen of Westeros when she marries Jace, but who's looking out for Baela? Later, Rhaenyra plays with her youngest children, Aegon and Viserys. Yes, this is another character named Aegon Targaryen and another Viserys Targaryen. This Aegon is called Aegon the Younger, to distinguish him from Aegon the Elder and Aegon the Conqueror. Aegon and Viserys are the sons of Rhaenyra and Daemon, so even though Rhaenyra rejected Daemon, Daemon is still the father of these kids. She is tied to him by blood and fire. Criston Cole is overwhelmed with guilt. He's the Kingsguard commander, and Prince Jaehaerys was murdered while he was breaking his oath by having sex with Alicent. The secret is eating him, but he can't tell anyone the truth or else he'll be killed. He can't take responsibility, and he seems unable to talk about it with Alicent. So instead, Criston gets angry at Arryn. Criston yells at Arryn for letting his white cloak get dirty, because the cloak is a symbol of Kingsguard honor and purity. It's ironic that Criston's cloak is clean when his conscience is dirty with his oath-breaking and his failure and his murders, while Arryn's cloak is dirty, but Arryn is a true and pure Kingsguard who keeps his oath and does his duty. This is a central theme of the Game of Thrones books, that being a hero is not clean or pure. Real life is complicated. Heroism is messy, and you've got to make tough moral choices, while noble white knights like Criston are sometimes the real monsters. Kristen needs a scapegoat for Jaehaerys' death. He needs to project his guilt onto someone else. So he blames Arik for Jaehaerys' death. Which is completely ridiculous because Arik was busy guarding King Aegon that night. But Kristen abuses his authority and sends Arik on a dangerous mission to go and kill Rhaenyra. Arik's twin brother Eric is on Dragonstone protecting Rhaenyra, so Arik will pretend to be Eric so that he can get inside and kill Rhaenyra.
Brilliant.
Kingsguard are not meant to be sneaky assassins. They're meant to be honest and honourable guardians. But they are sworn to obey, so Arik follows Kristen's orders. In an unjust world, honourable men can be forced to do terrible things. Jace is Rhaenyra's eldest son and heir, and he has a complicated family. Jace is supposedly the son of Laenor Velaryon, but he's actually the bastard son of Harwin Strong. Harwin was nice, but he's dead. Laenor was alright, but he's gone, and now Jace has Daemon as a shitty stepdad. In this world, identity comes from your family, so who is Jace? A Velaryon? A Targaryen? A Strong? A bastard? He wants to prove himself as a Targaryen dragon rider like his mother, but with this messy family, in a war, it's not easy growing up. Baela is the daughter of Daemon and Laena Velaryon. After Laena died, Baela grew up on Driftmark with Corlys and Rhaenys. Baela is a Targaryen dragon rider, and she wants to understand her Targaryen father, Daemon, but he's gone again. Baela says that she thinks she hates him. In the book, Baela is described as brave, wild, and restless, like Daemon. She's more boyish than ladylike, and loves dancing, hawking, and flying her dragon. In Hot D, she seems a bit more serious and focused. The actor Bethany Antonia says Baela had to grow up quicker than anticipated, and has a strong sense of family loyalty. Baela and Jace both feel the weight of their responsibilities. Once Jace and Baela get married, they're set to be king and queen of Westeros after Rhaenyra. They don't seem to know each other very well yet, but they are talking about their feelings, which makes them a better couple than most in this show. Aemond visits Sylvie, who runs a fancy brothel. We saw Sylvie last season. It seems that Sylvie took Aemond's virginity when he was a teenager. And now Aemond confides in Sylvie. She's like a mother to him. Aemond doesn't get much affection from his actual mother, Alicent, so he has Sylvie comfort him. Though they also seem to have sex, so there's an element of incest as well. Aemond feels proud that Daemon tried to have him killed, because Aemond always admired Daemon, wanted to be as strong and cool as him, so he's kind of stoked that his idol noticed him. It's funny that Aemond admires Daemon so much, when Daemon is really just as insecure as Aemond is. With his dragon, Vhagar, and his skill with the sword, Prince Aemond is one of the most powerful men alive. But deep down, he's so vulnerable. Still that bullied boy who was rejected for being different. Sylvie tells Aemond that when princes fight, it's the common people, like her, who get hurt. How many more people will die because of Daemon and Aemond's emotional insecurities? We see Hugh the Hammer, the blacksmith from last episode. He has a wife named Cat and a sick daughter, and he's struggling to support his family. Aegon said that he would give money to Hugh and the blacksmiths, but now Aegon is distracted and Otto gets fired, so is anyone actually going to pay Hugh? Cat says that people are scared of war and of the Velaryon blockade, so people are hoarding food, raising the prices at markets. Hugh says that they shouldn't be selfish, but Cat says she might do bad things to feed their family if she has to. Last season, Daemon said that each of us is capable of depravity. What evil might we do to protect the ones we love? If the Greens and Blacks go to war, thousands of ordinary lives will be in danger. Alan, the sailor, returned from fighting on the Stepstones. He reunites with his brother Adam, a shipwright. On the Stepstones, Alan saved Lord Corlys, the richest man in Westeros. So Adam wants Alan to use his connection to Corlys to get money and social advancement. Adam and Alan are just commoners, so Corlys could give them better jobs, better lives. It's a huge opportunity. But Alan is reluctant. He's worried about war. We know that the Stepstones were brutal. People were eaten alive by crabs. Alan could be traumatized by the violence. There are scars on his face. So if war comes to Westeros, Alan doesn't want to be involved. Later, Adam sees the dragon Seasmoke. Seasmoke was once Laenor Velaryon's dragon, but then Laenor faked his own death and ran off to the east, and Seasmoke has been hanging out on Driftmark. On Dragonstone, there are 5 more unclaimed dragons: Vermithor, Silverwing, Sheepstealer, Grey Ghost, and the Cannibal. If the Greens and the Blacks go to war, they're gonna want to use these dragons. But Seasmoke is an interesting case, because as far as we know, Seasmoke's rider, Laenor, is still alive, and a dragon never accepts a new rider while their old rider is still alive. There's a magic bond between dragon and rider. So, where's Laenor? Why does Seasmoke appear to Adam? What is Adam's destiny? We see Corlys with his wife, Rhaenys. Corlys mentions that he likes taking orders, so it sounds like Rhaenys is dominant in bed. Corlys and Rhaenys are committed to helping Rhaenyra beat the Greens, but they're worried about Daemon. They don't think that Daemon will steal Rhaenyra's crown, but they know that Daemon won't follow orders. Corlys is one of the only people who's ever successfully worked with Daemon back on the Stepstones. Maybe Corlys could get Daemon back in line. Rhaenyra reads in the Dragonstone library. She reads about Aegon the Conqueror and his sister wives, Rhaenys and Visenya. Aegon had spouses he could rely on, while Rhaenyra has lost her husband Daemon. Who can she trust? Rhaenyra questions Mysaria, because Mysaria helped Daemon arrange the murder of Jaehaerys. Mysaria says that she had to help Daemon so that he would free her, but now Daemon has left without keeping his promise to free Mysaria. In Season 1, Daemon said that he would marry Mysaria, but he didn't do that either. This is a pattern for Daemon. He takes a lover and uses them and then leaves them, or murders them. Rhaenyra is meant to be Daemon's queen, but she sees that he treats her the same way he treats Mysaria, leaves her alone. Last season, Mysaria tried to have influence on politics. She kidnapped Aegon and told Otto to close the child fighting pits. Then Alicent burned her house down. So Mysaria says she was an idiot to try to have power. She says no man will really listen or accept her. They only see her as a whore defined by her body. And this was always Rhaenyra's fear. Last season, Rhaenyra's mother said that her only job was to birth children. Rhaenyra asked if the realm would ever accept her as a ruler, and Rhaenys said that they never would. It's starting to seem like Rhaenys was right. Even though Viserys declared Rhaenyra his heir, half the realm now rejects Rhaenyra, partly because Rhaenyra is female and Aegon is male. After everything Rhaenyra risked, everything she's suffered, will the realm ever really accept her? Rhaenyra asks how Mysaria got the scar on her neck. We know that Mysaria was once a slave. Maybe the scar is from a slave collar. We don't know much about Mysaria's backstory. In the book, Mysaria is an older woman with milk-pale skin from Lys, across the sea. But in Hot D, a script says that Mysaria is from Yi Ti, which is in the far, far east. How did Mysaria come to Westeros? What else has she experienced? There are crazy theories that Mysaria might be Melisandre in a magical disguise, because Melisandre was hundreds of years old. She would be alive in this time. We see this character, Ulf, who's described as a sot and a raconteur, so like a drunk party boy. He casually steals food from someone, and then he sees the rat catchers hanged by Aegon. Families weep for the 99 innocent murdered men. We also see that the guilty man, Cheese, has been killed, and his dog stays by him, even though Cheese kicked the dog last episode. Sometimes we stay loyal to the wrong people, like Rhaenyra's marriage to Daemon, perhaps. Otto is furious that Aegon publicly murdered 100 innocent people. Otto worked hard to make Aegon look like a good and legitimate king. This massacre makes him look like a monster. He also learns that Criston sent Arik to kill Rhaenyra, which might also turn into an embarrassing shitshow. Otto spent 20 years plotting to put this dumb kid on the Iron Throne. Otto pushed Alicent to marry Viserys. Otto framed Aegon as Viserys' heir. Otto arranged Aegon's coronation. And now, at this critical, delicate moment when the throne is in doubt, Aegon ignores Otto's advice and undermines their position. Otto misses Viserys. Viserys was flawed and weak, but he did listen and care, and he tried to rule well. Otto did manipulate Viserys and went against his wishes by crowning Aegon, but Otto did love Viserys, like a son, so it's heartbreaking for him to see the ruins of Viserys' model city carted away. Aegon says that Viserys wanted him to be king, and Otto cruelly laughs. He says Viserys never approved of Aegon, and that hurts. Last season, Aegon said that Viserys never loved him and didn't want him to be king. But when Aegon was crowned and got love from the people, Aegon wanted to believe that maybe his dad really did love him. Maybe he should be king. But Otto crushes Aegon's fragile hope. So Aegon retaliates. He fires Otto as Hand of the King, which is what Larys told him to do last episode, and Aegon impulsively makes Criston his new Hand of the King. The Hand of the King is the king's right-hand man, the second most powerful person in the government. Usually, the Hand of the King is a lord, an experienced politician, like Ned Stark or Tywin Lannister in Game of Thrones. Previously, there have been Kingsguard as Hands of the King, like Ryam Redwine was hand to King Jaehaerys, but Ryam was so terrible at it that he got fired within a year because, as it turns out, some problems cannot be solved by hitting them with a stick. Criston is good at fighting, and he's good at murdering innocent people, but could he possibly be a good Hand of the King? Will he guide Aegon to make wise decisions, or will they do more boneheaded atrocities together? Aegon says he wants to spill blood, that he dares, and he finds it stimulating. The king is becoming a reckless, destructive force. Maybe Otto should not have made Aegon king. While Aegon murders innocent men, Rhaenyra shows mercy to Mysaria. She knows that Mysaria is dangerous. Mysaria has spies. Mysaria arranged Jaehaerys' death. But Rhaenyra sympathizes with Mysaria. They've both been screwed around by Daemon, and Daemon said that he would free Mysaria, so Rhaenyra does the right thing and lets Mysaria go out of the goodness of her heart. Rhaenyra shows some of Viserys' qualities that Otto was just praising: forbearance, judiciousness, dignity. If Otto really loved Viserys, maybe he should have supported Viserys' chosen heir, his daughter Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra arranges for Mysaria to sail east, where hopefully she will never trouble any Targaryen again. But on the way out, Mysaria sees Arik, the Kingsguard who's working for Aegon. Mysaria had just seen Arik's twin brother Eric, so she knows that the wrong twin is on Dragonstone. So she goes back and warns them, which ends up saving Rhaenyra's life. Rhaenyra's altruistic, moral choice to free Mysaria ends up saving her life. Good karma paid off. Because Arik sneaks into Dragonstone by pretending to be his twin Eric. Arik knows that even if he successfully kills Rhaenyra, he will probably be killed, even tortured himself. He might be hated forever as a dishonorable, sneaky murderer. But Criston gave him orders, and he swore an oath, so Arik obeys. He corners Rhaenyra, but thanks to Mysaria, Eric comes to stop him. Arik said that he and Eric are one soul in two bodies. They shared a womb, they love each other, but duty makes them enemies, and duty is the death of love. Arik and Eric swore the same Kingsguard vows. They are sworn to protect the same family, but they interpret their oaths differently. Arik is loyal to King Aegon, while Eric thinks that Aegon is unfit to rule and sees Rhaenyra as the rightful ruler. They are both good men trying to do the right thing, but that leads them, tragically, to destroy each other. They fight brutally and intimately. The director, Claire Kilner, says the scene is about their brotherly love. In the end, Eric kills Arik. He does his sworn duty, protects his queen. This is what Kingsguard are meant to do. But Eric can't live with himself after killing his twin, destroying half his soul. So Eric kills himself. Author George Martin writes about the human heart in conflict with itself. His characters are torn between opposing desires, like Jon Snow is torn between love and duty. Eric and Arik embody one soul in conflict. They are one heart fighting itself. They show how an unjust political world can destroy even the best, most honorable people. In behind-the-scenes footage last episode, Helena wrote, "The goose kills its reflection and dies." The sigil of Eric and Arik's family, House Cargill, is a goose, so it looks like Helena had a dream of the future and she saw that the Cargills would die, killing their own reflection. In the books, some say that Eric and Arik fought for an hour, and everyone saw them fighting, but no one could help because they didn't know which one was Eric and which one was Arik. Some say that Eric and Arik died together with tears on their cheeks, while Mushroom claims that they brutally wounded each other and that Eric took 4 days to die of a gut wound. In the books, there's a sad song about Eric and Arik called "Farewell, My Brother." Eric and Arik were first mentioned in the first Game of Thrones book, published in 1996. 28 years later, here they are on screen. Eric and Arik symbolize the larger conflict between Rhaenyra and Aegon. They are one family, fighting itself, and there is no war so hateful to the gods as a war between kin. Otto complains to Alicent about Aegon and Criston. After all these years, he's sick of their shit and wants to go home, to Old Town, the city of House Hightower. He mentions that Alicent's son, Daeron, is in Old Town. We haven't seen Daeron yet, but Daeron is the 4th child of Alicent and Viserys, after Aegon, Helena, and Aemond. Daeron has a dragon named Tessarion. In the book, Daeron is described as popular, clever, courteous, and comely. He sounds like a much more likable, nice person compared to his siblings. Hopefully, we'll see him soon. But Alicent tells Otto to go to Highgarden, the seat of the Tyrells, who rule the Reach. Alicent wants to make sure that the houses of the Reach will support Aegon. One of those Reach houses is House Beesbury. Criston murdered Lord Lyman Beesbury last season, and the Beesburys are pretty steamed about that in the book. Otto shows some vulnerability to Alicent for once, so Alicent tries to share her feelings. She says that she has sinned. She's feeling guilty about having sex with Criston and not saving Jaehaerys, but Otto says that he doesn't want to hear it. He says it with some affection, but Alicent needs someone to listen right now, and Otto refuses. It's like in Game of Thrones, when Tywin won't listen to Cersei, telling him about her incest. Otto always was a manipulative, domineering dick, but with him gone, Alicent is even more isolated. Alicent's only emotional outlet is rough, messy sex with Criston. Alicent and Kristen don't seem able to talk or to share their feelings. They only get physical catharsis, which might be fun now, but what happens if the secret forbidden sex is revealed? What if Alicent remarries? What if Alicent gets pregnant? There are a million ways that this could end really badly. So in this episode, Jaehaerys' death sparks emotional explosions. Rhaenyra finally rejects Daemon for his selfish, destructive behavior. Aegon fires Otto and expresses his grief by murdering innocent people. Arik and Eric destroy each other, just as the royal family destroys itself. The Greens and the Blacks are both fracturing, falling apart when they most need unity. 99 dead rat catchers are just the beginning, because if dragons go to war, thousands will burn. This video was sponsored by my dishonorable oath-breaking half-twin, Alt-Schwift X. Alt-Schwift X and Glidus are making weekly videos about Hot D Season 2. They also made 10 videos about Hot D Season 1, and they made a 23-hour-long video about Jon Snow, and you can watch these videos now on Nebula. Nebula is an independent video site owned by creators, where we can make ambitious projects that can't be uploaded anywhere else. Nebula has exclusive originals from creators like Isaac Arthur, Tale Foundry, Lindsay Ellis, and Philosophy Tube by Abigail Thorne. Abigail's award-winning play, The Prince, is on Nebula, along with her upcoming movie, Dracula's Ex-Girlfriend. And Abigail is in House of the Dragon Season 2, playing Triarchy Admiral Shirako Loha. So, to support Alt-Shift-X and Alt-Schwift-X and Glidus, and to watch 55 hours of exclusive Schwift and Glidus Dragon Talk, sign up to Nebula at the link below, nebula.tv/AltShiftX. Or nebula.tv/AltShwiftX if you're a traitor to the throne. Using the link, you can get an annual plan for just $2.50 a month or $30 a year. It's a great way to support Alt-Shift-X. Thanks. Thanks for watching. We're making weekly Hot D videos plus weekly live streams right after each episode. So press like and subscribe, check out the podcast feeds linked below, and thanks to the patrons, including Sophie, Ajitesh Parthak, Lord Galdaming, David Demerkanyan, and Rara Avis. Cheers.